I used to think starting over was the answer. In this video, I want to show you why this pattern actually makes things worse and what actually helped. Monday, next week, I'd tell myself, okay, I'm starting over. I'd make a new plan, a new routine, a promise that this time I'd finally follow through. And for a little while, it felt hopeful, but then life would happen. A bad night of sleep, too much noise, too many decisions, and the routine would fall apart. And I didn't realize it, but constantly starting over was wearing me down in a way I didn't understand yet. It didn't make things easier because every time I started over, there was this quiet pressure. This time, don't mess it up. And when it didn't hold, I didn't think this was too much. I told myself, I should be able to do this by now. That was the moment something clicked. Not because I suddenly knew what to do, but because I realized that constantly starting over was part of the problem. It was keeping me stuck in this constant cycle of trying, falling off, and blaming myself. And that's when I stopped looking for the perfect restart and started thinking about how to work with the day I was already having. Here's what I didn't understand for a long time. When consistency is hard, it's easy to assume it means you don't care enough, that you're not disciplined, that if you just tried harder, this wouldn't keep happening. But consistency isn't just about effort. It's about what your day is already demanding of you. With ADHD, your day isn't one steady stream. It's interruptions, questions, noise, decisions, switching tasks and activities again and again. And every time you switch tasks, you're using energy. So by the time you get to the routine you're trying to be consistent with, a lot of that energy is already gone. That's why routines often fall apart later in the day, because you're depleted. And when you miss that, when you read a capacity problem as a personal flaw, you don't change the routine, you judge yourself. So instead of asking, why can't I be more consistent? The more useful question becomes, what is this day already asking of me before I expect consistency on top of it? Even after I understood why consistency was hard, I was still turning every system into a verdict about myself. If a plan didn't stick, I didn't think, this wasn't a good fit. I went straight to, I can't stick to anything. Without realizing it, I was treating systems like a test of character. When they worked, I felt relieved. When they didn't, I felt ashamed. And that meant every system was doing double duty. It just wasn't helping me get through the day. It was quietly deciding whether I could feel okay about myself. But systems aren't a test. They're just tools. And when a plan stops working, it doesn't mean you failed. It means the plan is asking more than you realistically have to give right now. And that's information. And when you start treating it that way, something shifts. You stop scrapping everything and starting over. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, what part of this was too much? That question doesn't fix everything, but it changes what you do next. Instead of pushing harder, you start adjusting the plan. And that's where things begin to feel different. Not because everything suddenly works, but because difficulty stops meaning failure. This is where a lot of us accidentally make things harder. Once you stop blaming yourself, there's a pull to swing the other way and think, maybe I just need less structure. But for ADHD brains, less structure creates more friction. Structure is often the thing that makes life with ADHD work. What matters is how rigidly you expect it to work. Gentle structure means you're not building plans that only work on good days. You're building plans that expect interruptions, low energy, and moments where focus just isn't there. So instead of starting over every time something breaks, you adjust one piece, you tweak, you simplify. You take pressure off the part that was doing too much. Because most of the time, the problem isn't that the whole plan failed. It's that one piece wasn't realistic for the day you were actually having. Gentle structure sounds like, this worked in the mornings, not the afternoons. This has too many steps. This can't depend on me being calm or focused. Not, why can't I stick to anything? When you expect plans to wobble, you don't panic when they do. You adjust instead of scrapping everything. And that's where consistency actually comes from. Not forcing yourself to restart, but staying in the process without turning difficulty into failure. This is where guilt usually comes up. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because for a long time, guilt has been the only thing that made change happen. If you felt bad enough, you'd try harder. If you felt enough pressure, you'd push through. So when you stop using guilt as fuel, it almost always feels uncomfortable, like you're letting something slide. But guilt isn't the same as responsibility. Guilt keeps you stuck in judgment. Responsibility lets you respond. When a plan wobbles now, I don't ask, why can't I get it together? I ask, what does this tell me about what I need? That shift matters because self-trust isn't built by being perfect. It's built by noticing when something isn't working and responding without turning it into a verdict. Over time, that's what actually reduces guilt, not because you never struggle, but because struggle stops meaning that you've failed. And when guilt loosens, you have more room to be present, more room to problem solve, and more room to show up as yourself. If any part of this felt familiar, I want you to know something important. Nothing here means you're failing. It means you've been trying to make change in a way that asks too much of you. And once you see that there's another way forward, not by starting over, but by learning how to adjust without turning every hard day into a verdict about yourself. If guilt still shows up a lot for you, that voice that says you should be better by now, I have another video where I talk specifically about why guilt is so loud for ADHD moms and how to loosen its grip without losing motivation. You can click right here to watch that next. And if this video helped you feel more understood or less alone, consider subscribing. I make videos like this to help ADHD moms make sense of what's actually going on without shaming themselves for it.